So there's really no better way for me to give you guys an example on tattoo shading than a Greek mythology piece. So let's get right into it. I have a couple of tips that will be popping up on the screen, and with those tips popping up, I'm going to expand on them in further detail. Tip 1, starting in the lighter areas helps make it easier to get acquainted with your client's skin. And I stress this because when you're first tattooing someone, you don't know how their skin's going to respond to tattooing. You don't know if they swell a lot or they get super red, or if they have tougher skin. You're not sure. So it's easier to start off with the lighter tones. That way you can use that to your advantage to get acquainted. And if things are too light, worst case scenario, you can just darken them rather than them being too dark. Next tip, to maintain a stencil, let it dry 15 to 20 minutes. Wipe using ointment instead of green soap. So this is very helpful for me, even though the clients don't really like it the most, but it is very helpful for you to give them a better tattoo. So what I do is once I put the stencil on, I let it dry for at least 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes even 30 depending on the stencil, and then I'll clean off the excessive ink with ointment rather than green soap. Another tip, the larger the mag, the easier it is to get smooth shading. So basically, when you have a smaller mag, like a 7 mag, it's easier to puncture the skin because it's a smaller surface area that you're puncturing. So when you want smoother shading, then it's easier to get a big mag because it's wider surface area that you're going across. So it's easier to softly tap the top layers of the skin and slowly fan in those tones. So I would say a 25 mag or 14 mag is ideal. Use your liner to pack small areas with black. So with tight corners or small areas, what you can do is take your 3-round liner, 5-round liner, or maybe even a 7, and just go in small circles and fill in the areas, This is really effective, especially if you're inexperienced with a mag, but also it seems to be less trauma on the skin depending on your voltage. But I like this because it just allows more control and it's just easier to take care of those tight areas that need a lot of black. Okay, up your voltage when working in larger areas. So I would only recommend this to those with a lot of experience with shading, but for larger pieces, I tend to up my voltage by an additional 0.5 or 0.6, depending on the size of the tattoo. And this is because I'm covering larger surface areas, so it requires more hand motion. So faster hand motion, higher voltage. For better white highlights, slow voltage and take your time. Now this tip is self-explanatory, but basically yes, you want to slow down your voltage so you have more time in a certain area, so that way you can really focus on how deep your needle is in the skin, because your needle depth is going to determine the longevity of those whites, and you don't want to over traumatize the skin while you're focusing on that.